Beyond the legal documents, I think most of the wedding industry is a scam. Diamond rings are a marketing ploy. Bridesmaids shouldn't have to pay for an expensive dress that they don't get to pick out. And wedding costs are marked up for no other reason than businesses knowing they can get away with it. Mm-hmm. And can we talk about how misogynistic the traditions are? The white dress representing virginity, the dad giving away the bride, etc. Mm-hmm. As someone who's getting married soon, all I want is the paperwork and a small party with 20 people. I can be on board with the small party with 20 people.
Oh, yeah, 100% I vibe with that. I think there's a couple things there. Like the white dress traditionally obviously represented purity, but now I think it's just no one ever wears a full-length white gown.
That's the way that you represent yourself.
And so that's how you separate the day. It's like special, and you know it's your wedding because you're wearing a white dress.
Yeah.
I don't think
it says bridal. Like that's what it says. And if you don't want to wear white, don't wear white. Don't feel like you have to. A lot of like off-whites or champagnes or like if you want to wear something like blue or black, like we've had a bride wear black.
Black's my personal favorite.
Do it. Do that. But also, I don't feel like you have to, like, I don't think a lot of our brides, I think, and grooms, sometimes they live together beforehand. I'm
going to go out on a limb here and say that if white actually represented purity and that was a hard rule, that almost no one would be wearing white.
Which is fine.
Which is fine. But and that's the way things are now.
I agree with this a little bit. The wedding industry is a scam.
Yeah.
I
mean, with that being said, we price what we do for our couples is priced fairly.
Yep.
We do a lot of work. There's a lot that goes into weddings that doesn't go into other things. And our event coverage is just as expensive as our wedding coverage. Maybe a little bit less because there's not quite as much planning.
There's a lot less planning in like we had like a vendor friend ask us to photograph like an Easter Bunny event. And there would be almost no planning that goes into this Easter Bunny event space opening. Like it'd be just like candid coverage, a lot of candid coverage, no direction. And that is like showing up with a camera and knowing how to use your camera. And in that way, it would be less expensive. But there are a million reasons why wedding industry professionals charge what they charge. I do think that there are some people who have figured out they can charge a lot and they don't do a good job. There was a planner. I'm going to straight up call her out. I'm not really, but there was a planner who day of coordination charged, it was like just over $1,000 for day of coordination. Usually there's some type on her website. It said that she does vendor coordination.
Yeah, they all say that.
The week of. She's like, I'm going to reach out to your vendors the week of and let them know what's going on and talk through planning with them. I met her like 4 hours into the wedding day. She didn't introduce herself to me. I had to introduce myself to her. She didn't reach out to me beforehand. She didn't, she had my timeline on a clipboard. Like, I literally don't understand.
I don't know what vendors they're communicating with. The first vendor you should communicate with, I feel like, is the person who's going to be running the day in their absence.
Yep.
Or even in lieu of them.
Yep. It was, I literally couldn't have picked her up out of a crowd until I was like, are you the planner today? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, hi, I'm Caitlin. I am the couple's photographer today. Like, I just had to introduce myself. And then it seemed like nothing to do with me, which I understand. But if you're busy, you don't want to sit and talk with other vendors. Right. But she wasn't. She stood at the bar and talked with her assistant most of the day.
I think this is a wedding I didn't actually go to.
That's true. You weren't there. That wedding specifically was incredibly frustrating. And to know that she charged them $1,000 to not even do what she said she was going to do, which was plan with the vendors. She did not talk to me. I had to go talk to her, and she was not interested I wanted to make sure the timeline was right. And that's something that we could have that wedding day was 3 hours behind. The bride was getting in her dress maybe 15 minutes before the ceremony, which it was supposed to be 2 hours before. We had to cut out first looks. We had to cut out portraits beforehand because we didn't have time because the schedule was messed up. And you know what would have happened if the coordinator had reached out to the vendors the week of the wedding? It wouldn't have been as messed up. I just truly believe if she'd have actually done what she signed herself up for, the wedding would have been better. But she knew she could charge money, and that, in my opinion, scam. That, in my opinion, is a scam. That was one of the clear indicators to me. It was within the first 2 years of our career. So it was wow, how do people get away with stuff like that? And the more we've been in it, the more we've recognized that can happen.
It's always kind of a shock when you show up and the wedding planner actually does their job properly, because it feels like half the time, at least more than half the time, they're not doing what they're paid to do at all.
Just like kind of, well, and I think there's a difference between like standing and being present and standing and not really, like making people feel bad for, like, it's like when you go to a fast food restaurant or something and they're like, what do you want? Like, and you're like, whoa, I want to not feel like I'm bothering you.
Yeah.
I want to make sure, I want to feel like when I bite into my fries, like you didn't sneeze on them before you handed them to me. Like, I want to make sure that we're like good here. Like, I'm sorry to make you work, but I really just want some French fries. Like,
yeah,
that's not the vibe you should get from any of your wedding vendors on your wedding day.
Nope.
Like, and it feels like a lot of people get to a point where they're frustrated with the industry. They've been doing it for a long time. They charge a lot of money because they've been doing it a long time and can say they had the experience, but they don't actually want to do their jobs. Like, there was another story. There was a photographer that we saw last year. He was basically the photographers. We stay busy on a wedding day. Like, it is like our whole job to do everything we can in our power to capture the essence of their wedding day. And that is staying busy, looking for opportunities to capture when what we're looking at
because sometimes they can come out of the blue.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, I missed that.
And if you just like take a look around sometimes, you see like sweet little moments between different people who aren't right in front of your face. Anyway, we stay busy, and it blows my mind when I see other vendors not staying busy, like when they just like could be doing anything else.
Right.
And this photography team that we saw, it was a husband and wife duo, and they were like just kind of generally, they just stood cameras down, and then a moment would happen, and of course we watched the photographers because that's what we love to do. We love to watch how other people work,
because that's our job. And we never get to watch other people do our jobs, but sometimes we do. We're watching them, and for like example, the bride and groom did a spin into a dip during their dance, and both the photographers had their cameras down and didn't get them up in time, and I watched them look at each other like, "Man, what are you gonna do? What the heck is that? Yeah,
what the heck is that?" And then, but on their website, they're very proud of their 2 decades combined experience in the industry, like, which just means they've each been doing it for like 10 years.
Yeah, but I don't like when people combine their experience. It's like 2 people with 10 years experience is not the same thing as 1 person with 20 years experience.
Nope, it's not.
It's not even close to the same thing.
It bothers me that they're like, we have this amazing amount of collective experience, and that's why you should trust us. But like, legitimate, they don't care. Weddings are easy, like quote unquote easy money for them, and they can just do what they want. And that rubs me the wrong way so hard when people get into the industry, they find out they can charge money for it, and then they get lazy. That bothers me. So in that sense, there are some vendors who are a scam in the same way that there are venues that are a scam. Like, not everyone has your best interest in mind, and I agree completely. Those people don't deserve your money.
No, they're marking up their prices from what should be zero to whatever they're charging.
Yep, and you have to be careful because those people exist, and they're super frustrating to witness.
You have to find people that care.
Yep, and we could go on a whole other tangent, but like, they're for people who are doing their job well. There are reasons why. They're charging what they're charging.
Doing weddings is harder than doing other things. Like, I can't speak for anything other than what we do, but doing weddings is harder than regular events. It's harder than family sessions.
Yeah.
It's just harder.
It's difficult for a number of reasons. And like, we also, like I said, stay busy. Mm-hmm. So there's like an element of pushing toward the end that we just don't see out of other people. Mm-hmm. Like, if your dance floor is lit, we are also lit. And if that's at hour 11, that's at hour 11 of work. Like, and that wasn't just hour 11. We got up early. We made sure equipment was working. We like got in the car. We got there early. We got to scout, and then the direction, and then the noticing, and it's just a lot of effort.
And then all the planning that goes into beforehand, and then all of the work that goes in afterhand. Like, afterwards. All the work that goes in afterwards.
Yeah. There are people who will scam you, but there are also people who earn every penny of what they charge you. Yeah. And I think if you value that, if you value like the pictures, if you value the video, if you value that atmosphere that a DJ can provide, then those things aren't a scam. Mm-hmm. But if you legitimately don't think you'd appreciate them, then don't invest in them, because then they wouldn't be worth the money.
Right.
But also, yeah, I think we talked a lot about the traditions. Diamond rings being a marketing ploy. Yeah,
It's true.
agree.
Yeah.
It is, but some people love to play into the marketing ploy. So
Yeah.
But yeah, they finished with someone who's getting married. All I want is the paperwork and a small party with 20 people. Do it.
Yeah.
You won't regret it.
That's
Do
the
it.
vibe right there.
Make sure that it's captured well. That's all I have to say to,
Yeah.
to that. Number 16, this one's short. Elope if you aren't rich. Okay.
Yeah, fair enough. I think elope if you want to.
Yeah. I think even if you are rich, you can elope.
Yeah.
Also, if you aren't rich, you could try to have a party. We definitely were not rich. Our wedding was low budget.
Sub 10,000.
Sub probably 5,000.
Yeah, we did not spend a lot on
and
our
like
wedding.
90% of that was the photographer. And we had family bring in food, and
Yep.
it was
potluck
smaller,
style, which was
and we were
awesome.
careful about where we spent our money. But I mean, if we were to do it again today, I'd do it differently because we've already had that experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can have a wedding for cheap. You can also elope for cheap. You can elope for $20,000. Like, you can elope for any amount of money. Like, there are photographers who are elopement specialists, and I've seen their like starting prices, like sometimes 10 or 14,000. They scout the location for you, they officiate, they do the work, and they make sure that all you have to do is show up to get married. And for that can be expensive. Like, that price tag is more than some people's weddings.
Yeah.
So just elope if you aren't rich, I think, is an interesting way of saying it, because elopements can be expensive too.
Yeah. Maybe they mean elope at the courthouse.
Maybe they do, but they didn't say that.
No.